Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are well wherever you are. We thank God for a new day. And I really want to appreciate God for the gift of life. Last week, we received the sad news of the passing of Miss Rosia Orikiriza. Those of you that know Ori bags, a line of products, gift bags in different shapes, in different colors. I also thought perhaps it was the first of its kind on the Ugandan market. The innovator, the entrepreneur behind that line of products passed on last week. I don't know if you knew Rosia, but Rosia came to speak to us about 2 years ago on this platform. And she was a very passionate person. She was an innovator. She established her factory in Buloba. We visited her sometime last year when the Grow project was starting. But Rosia also battled cancer. And what I learned from Rosia's journey is resilience. She left us with many lessons. She persevered through suffering. She held on to hope during a very difficult time. She took each day at a time. This morning, ladies and gentlemen, we condole with the husband of Rosia, Mr. Davis Orikiriza, their children, and the entire family. We want to thank the husband for supporting Rosia through the journey and the entire fraternity, entrepreneurship fraternity in this country that supported Rosia through this journey. I recall when she came to my office, she was walking barefooted. She had no shoes, and I asked, and she laughed at it, and she said, "No, this is therapy for me." The doctors that she had been to India, and the doctors had advised her to do certain things, but part of that was to walk barefooted. She was happy about it, and she was not embarrassed about it. For me, this was unusual. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to request that we observe a moment of silence to remember the beautiful soul that Rosia was and pray that her soul is granted eternal rest. May the soul of the late Rosia Orikiriza rest in eternal peace. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we start this morning, I also want to appreciate very much our speaker, Mr. Don Patrick Bugingo, for coming to talk to us about an important topic. Don Patrick is going to talk about succession planning in family businesses. Family businesses make over 90% of businesses in the world. And the same is true for Uganda. In Uganda, we have over 90% of family businesses in the private sector, and a large number of them are informal. You find many businesses that are run by families in this country. And these businesses are important contributors in terms of employment creation, income generation, wealth creation, and the progress of our nation. Of course, the challenge about family businesses is known to many, especially in Uganda, that most of these businesses do not go beyond the first generation. When the founders of these businesses pass on, it is really difficult for the next generation to continue running the business for a large number of years. We have a few family businesses that are known to have run for maybe the last 8 years, the Madvanis, the Madvan is much older. The Madvanis, the Meta, we have Mokwano, we have Yuga Chick, we have the Wavas, and some few others. There are not very many that we know that have run for a longer period, especially after the first founders left the business. So it is very important that we talk about how to get the business to continue running over a number of years because of the great contribution that they make. We have businesses in Europe, in Japan, in the US that have been around for very many years. I think I've seen some businesses having spanned over the last 800 years or so. And that really gets us to think, what is it that we need to do in order to have our family businesses succeed? There are quite a number of ways to get this happen. One of them is succession planning, which Don Patrick is going to be speaking to us about. Another is when the business continues to identify and exploit opportunities in its environment so that it continues to create a customer base. The business should continue innovating. A business should continue training its employees, and many, many other factors. But today, we're specifically interested in how succession planning can happen for a family business and how that helps a business to go forward. Don Patrick is going to be speaking to us, but let me introduce him to you so that you get to know him even better. So, and I'm happy to say this, that Don Patrick is the son of the late Hajat Aisha Nakasuja, who was our very passionate, resilient, and very innovative entrepreneur behind Aloysia Organics. She also came and inspired us a lot in MUBS and spoke to us and supported us in our different programs. We miss her greatly, and may her soul rest in eternal peace. She's a mother to Don Patrick, who is now also a proud father and husband, married to Mrs. Christine Nabosa Bugingo. Don Patrick is a product of Kampala Parade School, SMARC, in Mount St. Mary's College in Kisubi. And also, I'm very, very proud to say this. He was the guild president at Makerere University Business School, where he pursued a bachelor's degree in science in marketing and graduated with a first-class honors. He then went to he pursued a professional course in marketing at the Chartered Institute of Marketing, and he also pursued a master's degree, Master of Science degree in marketing from Montpellier Business School in France, where he also graduated with the honors. He's a proud Rotarian and a past president of the Rotary Club of Kampala, Chibuli. He's a lecturer of French and marketing at MUBS in the Faculty of Tourism, Hospitality, and Languages, where he also served as the inaugural president of the Uganda-France Alumni Society. He works with Aloysia Organics. And Aloysia Organics, which I've already talked about, is a 13-year-old manufacturing family business in the field of cosmetics and herbal pharmaceuticals. And he's the managing director. And in his role as managing director, he's very passionate about inspiring many more young people and parents in family businesses because he feels that this can change the fate of family businesses in Uganda. In 2020, he established Dawn Swift Company Limited, a business consulting company that specializes in recruitment, training, and human capital development, knowing that in Uganda today we have a challenge of unemployment, and there is a need to prepare young people for work and place them in organizations where they can find meaningful work. He was also recognized as among the top 40 under 40 by the New Vision in the year 2023, and he was recognized as a top 40 under 40, and then he was selected as a Mandela Washington Fellow for his leadership track record and was placed at Rutgers University in New Jersey, USA, and where he represented his institute as an Ignite speaker at the Washington Summit. Don was recently elected the president of the Mandela Washington Fellowship Alumni Network of Uganda. We want to congratulate you, Don, for those many achievements at a young age, and we are always inspired. We are very happy to listen to you and understand how succession planning can really help, how it can be done, and how it will help a business in Uganda run beyond the first generation. I now invite you to make your presentation. You have 40 minutes, and thereafter, we shall have a question and answer session. Thank you, and over to you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Doctor. Good morning. Good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be this. Thank you so much for being early risers, for knowledge's sake. So thank you. And it's a very, very humbling introduction. Thank you so much, Dr. Diana. Friends, this morning, I hope we can be able to share and learn as much as we can in the 40 minutes or more in the topic, passing the torch, the role of succession planning in long-term business success. So certainly this cuts across a number of businesses and which also involve family businesses. Please note that this morning I speak to you not as an accomplished expert of succession planning, but a very, very good student of it, because it's something that I am really making great efforts on myself, because the challenge is when it comes to you, you also have to pass that torch on to somebody else. So the challenge continues and it remains alive. So to start off, really, we must appreciate that in the beginning, every business has a purpose, and that's to succeed and make it in terms of its objectives, vision, or mission. But company to foster and promote the continued development of their teams, their leaders, and ensure that key positions or roles or responsibilities, maintain some measure of stability. So that stability is what allows a company to thrive and be able to make progress across a period of time. So it enables the organization, in other words, to achieve its objectives. So why does it matter then? I will just share this quote, and somebody once said that it's very, very difficult to succeed by mistake. And the reason is simple, that success must be planned. It just simply cannot occur. So we need to be very, very intentional, because it's difficult to succeed by mistake. It is to succeed with it. This is an effort that you must be able to place into a business, into an entity, and with that intention, you can be able to cultivate some great success. Now, talking of intention, there are so many things that come to mind. Talking of that kind of planning, so many things do come to mind. And I'll share, one that really aligns well in terms of memory and something that for me was a real thing that reminds you of. It's the London 2012 Olympics. The men's relay 4x4. And this, is arguably said to be one of the greatest races of time. If you may have time after this call, you might be able to go to YouTube and look up this race, the London 2012 Olympics men's relay, and the great competition was between Jamaica and the US. You see, in a relay race, there are many lessons that we take from such a race. You look at the best people to be part of this race. And, there was a reason as to why each of them was in the position where they were. Somebody had to exploit their strength in a certain area of the track, then be able to hand over to another person. A lot of planning to guarantee that success that even allowed them to actually attain a world record. So when you think of the stars that were part of this race, Usain Bolt was at the end to make that final effort and getting this win for Jamaica. There are many other talented people. The likes of Safa Powell were also part of this. Many of us must know of Johan Blake, very, very efficient athletes of their time. And, the entire race was planned, but the idea that so and so should be at this point of the journey was done deliberately because of their competences and what they were really, really good at. So when we bring that back to business and how we execute in organizations, something that requires us to be intentional and deliberate. And in a number of organizations, I've had the privilege to be a member of Rotary, and I've served as a president of the Rotary Club of Kampala Chibuli. And one of the big lessons that I really take from Rotary is that there's a unique to leadership, because the fact that you get to know that you will serve as a president almost 2 years in advance, it allows you to be a president nominee and then be a president-elect before you actually become a president. But all this while, you are being mentored, you're being nurtured, you're being given direction in terms of what you have to do. So for you as a business owner, it's not right for you to think that you will intentionally or decide to be intentional about planning for the future of the business, especially in terms of leadership and other areas, maybe when you reach a certain age. And I will explain this in minutes to come. So far, what we appreciate is that this must be an intentional effort for you to have succession planning in your entity, in your organization. And not just because we have a fear for the unlikely, maybe death per se, but people leave jobs, people go for greener pastures, and certainly life happens because we've seen this in many organizations. But with the reflection of what Dr. just said, the late Miss Orikris, may her soul rest in peace, was a very, very good friend of mine and a friend of my late mother. So it's just sad to really, remember that even in her motivation, her strong zeal, that is really a direction that we all will not survive. So with that in mind, I again come back to share a unique message. I bring you an excerpt from the book Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson. And, this for me is part of what gives the justification for succession planning. As much as other reasons, like I've mentioned, in terms of, teams leaving or people changing, this can also happen. But if you may just listen to this and think through this. The book says, remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool to make the choices in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, all these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. So remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You're already naked. There's no reason not to follow your heart. Now, this message carries lots of depth, and for us to really think about that. Firstly, what it really presents is that, in our lifetime, I think one of the most guaranteed things is death. Across the time we have a chance to be alive, one of the most guaranteed things is death. That certainly that will happen. So even with that in mind, that should be the simplest reminder that we need to plan for what we have ahead of us. Because the uniqueness is that at least, we are going to live completely, permanently at some point, but we have a chance that we can still exist through the legacies that our businesses will leave. So you can surely still be able to exist through your businesses, through your legacy, through your works. And there's so many things that we can really relate this to, but the fact is we must start to think of tomorrow and start to plan for it today. So that is a mindset you need to harness as somebody that runs a business, as somebody that runs an entity, because leaders will be judged not just by their own success, but by the quality of the leaders after them. Because that's when we know that you are actually a great mentor. With you being great, with you being awesome, we get to know that you're good, we get to know that you're competent. But how do we know that you are a great mentor? You are great at passing on knowledge, you are great at teaching. We can only tell that by the quality of the people that come after you. You may relate to the Bible. even in the Bible, even God in his immortality ensured that his son can be able to step in and continue with this mantle of passing on the knowledge and the word of God. It's very, very ideal. We can't escape the story of Moses and Joshua. Moses had this great, great vision to get people to the promised land. And if we've read that story, it's important for us to know that there's a real lesson in there. And in that lesson, it's for you to remember that what was Moses' role in this story and how does Joshua come in? If somebody told the others of the promised land and what it looked like and what it would feel like, we actually remember that we never saw the promised land. But Moses made an effort to prepare Joshua to really be deliberate, to ensure that he was mentored, he was empowered, he had the wisdom that he needed to ensure the continuity of the mission that Moses could not be able to complete. So the word that we carry today is that we as business leaders, and not just for top leadership, we need to ensure that in our businesses, we have a Joshua for every Moses. That should be an obligation. For every individual in the entity that does something substantial, you must be able to prepare a Joshua for every Moses. And that's a challenge for all of us. So if that's yes, remember that story, Moses and Joshua, and see what we can really be able to pick from it. The vision you created for the very company you started, you may never see that vision. You may never reach that day, but you have an opportunity to see how best you can structure through succession planning that your business will be able to at least achieve that vision through other people. And it's been done. Moses and Joshua, that story gives us a clear picture of that clarity. And again, the mandate to you as a business owner is to ensure that you can have clarity of that final picture and that you can communicate it. Because once it's communicated, then it becomes very, very easy for you to really mentor people because they will understand and almost clearly see what you mean in terms of your message. So I thought it's important to really share this, but then again, bring it back home through Aloysia Organic. Our late mother, the late Hajat Aisha Nakasuja, started this business in 2012. And this is something that I think would be great for you to also appreciate that kind of story and how it transitioned over time. So 2012, I was in my senior six vacation and I got the chance to start really from the fundamentals of the business. And I think it's a great opportunity for the people that you want to mentor to bring them on board early. It's really good to see the business in those times when it barely has any form of value created so far, because you get to appreciate the simple things and see how you can safeguard them. And then 2015, the company opened its first retail store. We moved to a bigger branch. 2022, unfortunately, after, which was 2021, around there, we lost our mother. And on the 2nd of July, we'll be marking 4 years since her passing. May her soul rest in peace. But what this now allows us to really appreciate is that every business undergoes a journey. And that journey does involve resources who are partly people and maybe any other form of resources. But for us to have this more intentional effort to plan for succession, you must really be able to see the journey ahead. So 2022, we celebrated 10 years with milestones of partnerships and new collaborations. And 2024, we then set off onto that journey to see that we can have FMCG products incorporated ideally, and then see how we can push further. And remember again, in the words of Vusi Thembekwayo says, you as a business owner, you must work so hard. You must work so hard in an effort that your business does not need you anymore. You must work so hard to that extent to ensure that you start to become useless to your business. That's when you'll be certain that that business can survive without you. So that for us is something to really think about. But in memory of this journey, there are many things I remember, and I have shared this before, that these things made sense after our mother's passing. I remember in my first year, she signed me up for a certain course, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This was an executive high-level coaching program. And I remember attending that program with the likes of Tony Glencross, who was at that time the, I think, MD of National Media Group. There was another gentleman who was at the leadership of Vision Group, many other leaders at executive level and captains of industry. And here I was in my first year with these people, learning about business management, leadership, and executive level of dealing with business and people. And at that point, I was thinking, well, I don't know, maybe she's busy. That's why she asked me to come and attend it. But you get to appreciate this after a while, and you think, wow, that was something so intentional. That was something so purposeful. And it's a message for us, even as parents. Whatever you want to really be able to impart into your children, one of the easiest hacks is early exposure. What you get exposed to at an early age, or even way earlier, you have a chance to master, you have a chance to take it home independently. You can have it as a great success. Secondly, is the memory I have of having finished graduation at Mackay University Business School in 2017. In my mind, I felt I needed to just probably take a break a bit and then choose when to do my master's. But she came in strong on recommending that I go for my master's immediately. And I left for France in 2018 to go and pursue that master's degree. So, I'm then reminded that immediately after, when I came back in 2020, we lost our mother in 2021. When I'd just come back from the master's degree that she really pushed me to go for in time. And then she passed on in 2021. Again, another reminder that the key lesson is that the only constant is death, not just of you, even of your business, but the beauty is that that of your business can actually be prolonged strategically. So we have really taken on efforts through Aloysia Organic with my siblings, together with the management team. For us, the goal is to see how best we can change face of Aloysia Organic through our products and through how the world perceives what we manufacture. This has been keen through branding, of course, with the great background that I have through MUBS and through my masters, through CIM of marketing, to see that we can really position the brand out there. Remember, in the beginning, at that point of transition, the biggest need was to simply manage the existence of the business, to first survive before you try to bring in innovations and things of the like. So we have really ensured that we place new branding in the face of our clientele. Even when you look at our social platforms, we have really changed them with the effort of ensuring that we have a great touch in terms of how we are perceived. New products like the Valerie oil that you're seeing. And for us, this is really important because all of these allow us to continuously really share a message of growth in unique ways that we are also aligning with the succession planning. So products like this, the Orica hibiscus juice that comes in through UNBS certified, coming in from hibiscus, these are things that we think we should be able to develop and then allow independent brands like Orica to stand on their own, and maybe someday also have their own staff and their own teams that drive sales and drive volumes. So ours has been to ensure that the entire set of the portfolio of the products that we have under the Aloysia Organic brand is first of all sustained, but also that we look at new product development in an angle that allows us to look at new forms and new innovations. So we then ensure that we maintain the teams that we do have, but also look at training them continuously with succession planning in mind. Remember, we have said this is not just an obligation for top leadership. At every point in your business, you need to think through, if this person were not here tomorrow, how would this business survive? So there must be intentional planning in line with succession. We've made that effort to ensure that we can really cover ground. And then the other bit that we've also looked at is to also look at how we're expanding the locations of the business. And our latest one is the outlet in Nansana. which is allowing us to also tap into that market. So with those things and the collaborations that we are pushing, you really ensure that you have multiple avenues of growth. Now, back to you as a business owner. What should you have in mind at this point as you're running your business? Truth is, there are multiple things that you could do, but I needed us to really look at these core ones. And number one is the leadership identification. You need to be able to identify the leaders that are going to be next in line. Identification is number one, and it must really be based on merit, not just relation, even if it's a family business. Number two, you must make concrete efforts on documentation. And that documentation, we are talking SOPs, contracts, roles, board structure, and name it. When you look at this next award that Aloysia received recently at the Private Sector Development Awards, it was in line with the Women Business of the Year. And it's because we've been intentional, even in our contracting of the staff that we bring on board, that there's a balance to manage gender and how well we do it from executive level up to the roles that are operational in the business. That for me aligns with the focus on that documentation. And then third, mentorship and coaching. The senior leaders must be able to guide those that are coming next in line. They should not just see them as competition. They should see them as an opportunity for continuity. And until that mindset is really harnessed in that direction, then that's really when you can be able to make progress and drive traction. Legal preparation. Legal preparation. We've discussed this in several engagements to do with the writing of wills, shareholding agreements, trusts where need be. These are all things that you as a business owner, you can really look at and make paramount effort on. And then lastly, the communication. There must be a plan on communication so that quite often there's an engagement that allows you to meet as leaders and discuss things so that people continue to appreciate the vision in a more frequent manner. At Aloysia, we have resolved on every Monday morning to have our management meetings to review previous weeks and plan for the weeks ahead. And depending on where we are in the month, to look at how the month has performed or how the next month would rather be able to perform. So a big recommendation to you as a business owner, quite frankly, start to plan your exit. So the biggest misconception is for leaders or business owners to think that succession planning is for top level management. That's number one, or that it's for a certain age. When I make 60, I'll start to plan for who will come after me. Then my question to you is, would you have a guarantee that you'll actually make 60? We lost our mother at 45. So that, should be a wake-up call that you don't have much control actually. And that's why with the other excerpt from the book, Steve Jobs, should just remind you that that's a given. It will happen. That time will come. So plan for it, in other words. The better you are to plan for it, because that's guaranteed. So don't think of a certain age or a certain moment of your life or when you make a certain amount of money. Be intentional about seeing the continuity of the business after you. And I've always felt that business owners need to be comfortable with allowing the next generation to make mistakes. Allow them make mistakes, allow them, to try out things and see and correct. Because only then and only then can you be able to support them in unique ways, because you'll see an error and come in and be able to support them. So one thing is guaranteed: you can't live for a lifetime, but your legacy can probably do so through your business. I felt that, this for me would be the summary of what I think we need to be able to cover in presentation on succession planning. The last thing that I'd like to think about before I end this presentation is really some of the goals that I think become the real challenges in, that fail this succession planning to happen. And one of them, you've probably heard about it, is, the founder syndrome. They're thinking that no one can do it like me. They're thinking that no one can do it like me. I can give you a guarantee the world has seen better even before you came through. So you might see, yes, you're doing great, you're excelling and so on, but reality is the world will still move even in your absence. But the question is, which direction will your business move? So that for me is number one, that no one can do it like me. The second be favoritism, where people tend to really, deal with people they like as the ones that will take over them. Instead of that merit, bringing people on board based on merit. You must be that aggressive and brutal with merit in that you do not compromise. Even to the extent of pushing your own relatives or family members aside from leadership if they do not come through on merit. You must be that strict on the business. Otherwise, you risk, the collapse of the business. So, and of course, there must be buy-in. There must be buy-in, either from the team or the family. So, as a leader, you have a challenge of explaining in preciseness, in that crystal clarity, what your vision is for the business. Because if you don't get buy-in, again, it can breed conflict. The last one I would really bring in is delayed action. Like I mentioned, don't think of an age. Start the succession planning. It should be clear. It should never cause a fight in your absence. It should be clear that this person will come on board. And what's even better is that you should actually plan, even if that person were not in position to come on board, which other one can actually step in if the one I'm thinking should come through does not make it. And as unpredictable as the world can be, the person you're thinking of coming in the succession plan would actually be absent before you. That's why you then need to probably have another person in mind. And we've seen this even in the world of art and theater, where they have somebody they call an understudy. Somebody that, in the process of either filming something or acting out something, there's somebody that's always on the side there, watching everything that the main actor does, their lines, their movements, everything they have to do, so that in a scenario that they are either sick or not in position to be present on that day or specific time they're needed, the understudy steps in immediately and becomes the main actor. So these are things that are already known that we need to plan for the time when we will not be around. So the recommendations are clear. Start early, don't wait until you're exiting. Involve stakeholders, of course, board members, family members, your team, your staff. Certainly establish training and development programs. These will be paramount. Establish them in time so that people can really be better. You may never get the perfect person, but you can give them a chance at a perfect training. And maybe you can, sharpen them along the way. So, seek, some external advisors to also remove bias. Sometimes people think, he has chosen so and so because, they're friends or name it, but you need to engage some of the external people. That's why sometimes board members also play a very critical role, because they come in at a certain angle. They as if see the business from the outside to really be able to give you clarity on what you're pushing. And then institutionalize values and culture beyond the founder. I think one of the best things our mother left us were the values. And really, each and everything she said about how to treat people, deal with people, stayed with us. All these many things we can change. The branding, the setup, name it, but there's that software that does not change and really remains solid. And that's something that we can really always look up to and source inspiration from. So friends, as I do conclude, I want to really also allow some time for interaction, to also hear from you, learn from you. But I can tell you that a business that depends on one person, is not a legacy. It is a risk. And I repeat, a business that depends on one person is not a legacy. It is a risk. Because in your absence, what will happen? You keep people worried about, all the time people are thinking, what will happen if this person is not present? Because they don't see a future. So let's really, really be intentional, and let's make this plan clear. this succession planning is not optional at all. It's a responsibility that you must take on as a business owner. So my call to action is that let's begin your succession conversation today. Begin your succession conversation today. Friends, I thank you, and over to you, Doctor.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Don Patrick Bugingo. Thank you for a great presentation, and thank you for finding time in your business schedule to come and talk to us about this very important topic of passing the torch, the role of succession planning in long-term business success. When I looked through your CV, I appreciated it so much at your young age. And now I know why you have such a strong CV and you've been able to develop your career so fast. So thank you so much for taking us through what you've shared with us. Allow me also to congratulate you on the award that you achieved as Alosia Organic. And thank you for sharing with us, because on this very important topic that we need as business people, I think everybody who is logged on this morning will agree with me. This is a very important topic. You've been able to share with us that it is very important to be clear with the objectives, vision, and mission. And also, you've taken us through the justification why succession planning is very important. And you've already indicated that it needs to be planned, because when you plan it, it comes out better. You've given us some examples, like you've compared it to the short rally runs, where different people have to pass on the torch to another next person who is coming in line. You've also compared it with some good stories in the Bible, where you compared with Moses and Joshua, and many other examples to really justify the need for it. You've taken us through you were able to join early at a young age. You mentioned around your work of senior 6, and this helped you to be able to start early, although you were not aware why it was happening that way. And you've emphasized the issue of early exposure and taking people through some development and maybe studies, learn and get exposure to do good things. What you should have in mind is leadership identification is important and should be on merit. Concrete efforts on documentation, mentorship and coaching, legal preparations, communication should be planned. And you've also indicated to us some challenges, emphasizing the challenge of founder syndrome and not to deal with people that you like and you don't bring people on merit. And also delaying the action, thinking you should wait for an age where you should be able to put it in practice. This was wonderful, and thank you so much. I know people who are logged on here have some comments and questions to make, and I'll leave it at this and allow the interaction to continue. I would like to invite Mr. Joseph Ojok Caesar to guide us in Q&A.
Yes, thank you, Doctor. Hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Yes, allow me start by appreciating our presenter, Mr. Don Patrick, for really the wonderful insights shared, and I believe our listeners this morning have learned a lot from you. But ladies and gentlemen, it's about that time that we get to interact with our presenter. Probably you have some questions or some inquiries or any additions or any comments that you want to make as per the topic that we have today. So this is the time. We have 3 ways we are going to do that. We have the Q&A chat room where you can post your question right there, and in due course it will be responded to. You can also use the chat, post your question there, and we'll be able to read it to the presenter to actually give you feedback. But also you can raise up your electronic hand and we give you the permission to unmute and also ask your question. So let's go into that straight away. But allow me start by letting the presenter know that we have so many appreciations that are coming through from the listeners, and that means really did a wonderful job. But let me start with this from Al-Haji Rashid, who is saying thanks, dear Don and MUBS, for all this. Any tips on what we need to ensure under business succession from a family-based business perspective? That is from Al-Haji Rashid. Then I also have from the Q&A chat room. This is from Katerega, who is saying, thanks for the educative presentation. Help me practically understand how can business leaders identify and develop potential successors within their organization, especially in terms of skills and cultural fit. So those are what we have so far, but many appreciations. So as the rest come, we can actually start by responding to those. Yes, Don, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. And again, for the audience, for your questions, I start with the Haji's question in line with business succession and specifically for family businesses. You see, the family business question is quite broad, but we've often again shared that a family business can be family business. Firstly, simply because it's owned by a family. Then it can be a family business because it's owned by a family and run by a family. So there are areas where, not everyone in the family, first of all, should be directly involved in the business. Some people can still be beneficiaries, but not necessarily everybody being involved in the business. So, but in the case of family business, maybe where you want your children to be able to take on your business and push this legacy forward, you need, like I said, first recommendation is you need to do it early. That early exposure does something because you're first of all building interest. I can tell you, the Aloysia Organic dream is not my dream. It was my mother's dream. But I am happy to sustain this legacy because I now appreciate her vision and mission for this entity. I now embody it in everything I do and everything I consider as valuable. So you can imagine in the beginning, do you think I had the same interest that I have in the business now? Certainly no, because I also have my own individual motivations and, so it means that it does really require you to start early. Because when somebody gets to appreciate that, oh, the tuition I'm actually being able to pay at the university is coming from this business. When we get some, food at home, it's coming from this business. And then when you look at the success stories that the business, allows people to have, they're bettering their health, their skins, their well-being, and is really being improved. So that's a key one for me. Start early and engage them early. And of course, give them the necessary training. It's okay for them to be your children and for you to wish them to join the business. But if you're not competent, your interest in them joining is as good as, that remaining with you. So that's the other recommendation I could have. And maybe just the last one would be that, when I say that you must institutionalize, and, have every process documented and so on, so that they appreciate that once they step into the business, yes, they might be your children, but when they are there, they are really on duty. They are working. So the policies that, trap other employees when they are in the wrong should be able to get them too, if they happen to be on the wrong side of things in the business. So, and that's why you need to actually, again, standardize all these things, the legalities, the HR manuals, before you really bring in many of the family members. So they find the rules set. And tomorrow, if you have to let somebody go, you will have to let them go based on the fact that, as per the documentation or rules and procedures, they have actually broken something. So I'll end that there for Haji's question. And then Mr. Katerega asked about how to identify and develop leaders. So every other thing, again, and this is a big lesson from Don Swift on the other side of recruitment, that many of these things begin at recruitment. Recruitment must be very, very intentional as a step in bringing on people into your business. Because when you want to identify and develop them, you must identify those that are already in the business. So therefore, managing how they get into the business, and the same thing, even if they're family members, they have to go through the same process. Go apply. If you're selected, you'll be longlisted. If you're longlisted, you might be shortlisted. If you're shortlisted, you might get selected if you're the best. So let's just not compromise, because this is at a risk of really, collapsing our businesses if we are just compromising for the sake of family. So when we identify, when you recruit right, the other second thing to do is to challenge. You need to be able to challenge your team and your people. And these scenarios for you are an opportunity to observe and see how people react in different situations. The people that you have on your team, and sometimes you could actually step away intentionally to see who will step up, even when they're not told. Now, that's how you'll be able to identify people. And of course, their level of commitment, their level of engagement, how loyal they are. But it does take time. But I think for me, you must be able to step aside a bit, because somebody will not try to overstep and then try to do what you would do as the business owner or as the boss. But sometimes you step away. We are meant to go for an exhibition, but I will not be present to see who can step up and run things. And again, I say it's risky, very true, but until you can see your team fail, you will not be able to know how to correct them or how to actually support them in areas where they might be weak, or you'll even never know where their weaknesses are. So at some point, step aside a bit without letting them know and see who will step up to take up responsibility. Thank you. Over to you.
Yes, thank you, Don, for every responding to those. And I see this is from Simon from Sena Healing Africa, who is, I think, wouldn't be so different from what you've just responded to, but that doesn't stop me from reading it. What is the key technique in choosing great role identification for people to move on the business further? That is probably, you'll just comment, but I want to feel it's probably the same. Then I see two hands up from Semata, and the other one is Ingoma. Yes, Josh, kindly give those two permission. Let me start with Semata to go ahead and ask the question.
Thank you, Chair, and the moderation team. I want to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Don for the wonderful presentation and the reminders. I actually feel challenged, especially when it comes to the element of training people about the senses of highly intelligent people. Personally, I've had a book about the same for quite some time, the 7 senses of highly intelligent people, but it is surprising that I've never read it. I don't even remember the author. From this presentation, I think I should go and read it right away. Well, my question to Mr. Don is just how and when do you assess readiness for succession? Because I understand it is important to prepare people for succession even before you leave the world. Maybe you can choose to retire early, you can reach retirement age, whatsoever. But how and when do you assess readiness to tell that this person is ready to take on these roles? Is it after you give them the different trainings, or there are certain elements that you need to look at? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Semata, let me have Singoma. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you very much, Don, for this great presentation. Mine is again about documenting the succession plan you have as an organization. I've seen quite a number of organizations putting the succession plan in their document, but the succession plan they put in their documents, especially the strategic plans and the manuals, is only the succession of employees, not the succession of the owners. Because you see, if you don't document some of these successions, then you find people don't know when are you going, you as the owner, are you as the founder, because Sometimes, like for me, I'm into business brokerage. But when an investor is coming on board, he wants to know whether the organization depends on your presence. So that's why they need to know if you are leaving, will the organization go down? So they need to know, when are you leaving as the owner? So is it good enough to also indicate in the, especially strategic plan, when the founders will be leaving, maybe at a certain age or at a financial level? Would this be proper for an organization to indicate this in their strategic plan or their manuals? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think, Don, we can have you respond to those as we're on top of the hour already. Please go ahead and respond to them. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Semata and Mr. Cuthbert Isingoma. I'll start with Mr. Semata's question. And, how and when do you assess readiness for succession? I can tell you it's difficult to say there's a certain either, I don't know, a time frame or moment. But what I have observed is that, first of all, that readiness must come from you first before the readiness of the people you want to bring into the succession plan. You must be ready. You must be able to hand over. And I can tell you, there's more delayed readiness from the generation that is meant to hand over than from that which is supposed to receive. Sometimes there is the reluctance. There is, and it's understood, because sometimes this is your baby, it's your business, you've seen it from zero to where it is. To hand over fully sometimes maybe never happens. But, and why I say for me that time may not exist, that, when and how, because in my case, if you asked me, was I ready? I will tell you, I don't know. Because the time we lost our mother, I never thought that was the time I had to take on the business. That really never happened to me. I knew she was, still here for a while. I'll probably take over at some point. But so was I ready? I don't think I was. But when the time came, I just had to step up. I just had to. Not because I was maybe very, very good at it or whatsoever, but I had to step up. So I think for me, my message will go to the people, the leaders that need to plan for the succession. I think it's more about your readiness to hand over. And why I say it's better when you're still able, in good shape, and even available to see how people actually run the business, because you might get yourself a good surprise that the people you've actually been thinking will take on do not have, even in the smallest grain of capacity, what it requires to take on the business. But in your mind, you think they might be the ones. So you need to give them room and see how they deal with power. One of those two observations I've also had a great, great lesson upon. People are very, very unique beings in the face of money and in the face of power. So there are people who are great at execution, but every time you give them power and authority, my goodness, they are new beings. Totally different people. They take on a new form of arrogance. They take on a new, like they just wear a new coat of pride amongst their team members. So realize they are better, in the areas where they have been. But the moment you give them authority, my goodness, they're different, type of people. So for me, that readiness should come from you as the business leaders. And of course, from your side as the business owner, there is something that the business requires the most from you. It is your mind, your strategy, your ideas. You need to at some point step out of implementation, so you can even spend more time in thinking for the business. That's something I really get to appreciate. That I think that's why business leaders are paid that much of money that they are paid, even in top institutions, because the entity is counting on your brain. So if you don't secure enough time to think, you want to be all over the place. I'm a marketer by profession, but I've appreciated that Aloysia needs to have a marketing manager, and I need to be able to support them as MD. But I may not be too much in their business because I'm going to lose the bigger picture. So, Semata, I may not be able to add more to that, but that's what I feel. The readiness is mainly from you, and sometimes you're never really actually ready until you've experienced as much challenges or situations that require you to step up and provide a solution. And Mr. Cuthbert, in line with documenting succession plan, on the side of owners, I can agree that's something that sometimes is given very little attention. And it's because many business owners never see themselves out of the businesses as owners. Mr. Singoma, what you do in business brokerage, maybe people may not have appreciated it, but Mr. Singoma deals with the buying and selling of businesses. So in that art of buying and selling businesses, of course, owners have to accept to let go of their businesses for a certain amount of money. So, but that's a new concept you might realize, especially in our economy. People don't really have that, readiness to say, I'll sell my business. I want to hold on to it. It's going to be mine, my children, and after like that. But that's something I think that the experts like yourself really have a task to maybe sensitize people that even developing businesses to a certain level and then selling them off can actually be a great business. Because some people have a unique art in starting, but they're not good in that long-term engagement and management of business. So you set up something great, give it a good brand, great mileage, it gets to the market, it's on hype, and then you sell it. But that's something. But I second what you're saying, that we need to think long-term to that extent that maybe there will even be a time where I will not be part of the owners. So, but that's something that I think we need to get better versed upon. And then lastly, with Simon, the role identification is quite similar to what was asked previously. But you challenge your team as often as you can. Challenge them as often as you can, because people really get to perform at their best potential when they're out of their comfort zone. So, thank you. Over to you, host.
Yes, thank you for responding to the questions. I see one has just popped in, but we're already 11 minutes past. So I think we shall give you time to respond to this. Lastly, just in brief, with reference to the Chiwanuka family that had to go to court in family businesses, the parents tend to stay in charge and have a pride that they can't hand over even when very old or weak. How should this be handled to avoid issues being handled in courts of law? I don't know how I feel this is, but you can make a comment on that briefly.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. You might have noticed I took very keen attention not to mention any other businesses. But I think from the case that has been shared, I think it just maybe simply also reflects what I shared before, that the delay in readiness is more from the generation that needs to hand over. That's what I genuinely feel. Sometimes, we feel you're still in great shape, but I think there's always room to plan for what could happen after you. That's why I said, you may say, I'll wait when I'm a certain age, then I'll look at how the business will happen after me. Or maybe if I get sick, maybe then I'll start planning for it. But I think it's just safer. It's just safer to do it way before. And what I can give the business owners as, a window of hope is that we have professionals in the legal fraternity that have ensured that some of the things are better streamlined. Somebody will be able to advise you concretely on what should best be done. They offer the same advice in writing of wills, creation and development of trusts. They can really be able to recommend. And I really want to commend my sister, Zaina, who is on the call. I really ensured that she's also part of this call. She's a lawyer, and she has been a very, very great support in the business because she has way, way, way more knowledge than myself on the law. So she's always advising, this should be done like this trademark needs to be renewed. Let's ensure we do this, that contract should be changed, this and that. So that legal angle comes in very handy. I think it's a real safeguard. So thank you so much, friends. I think because of time, I'll end here, but it's been a privilege to speak to you and to also learn from you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, John, for ably responding to all the questions. Let me give it back to our dear host to continue, probably close up the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joseph Caesar Ojok, for managing the Q&A. And I would like to appreciate our presenter today, Mr. Don Patrick Bugingo, Thank you for further interacting with our participants, and thank you for the responses that you've given. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time. I like the responses you've given, because they are further guidance on how we should do succession plan. You emphasize the issue of start now. If you've never thought about it, it is important to start now. And I'd like to urge our dear participants who have logged on to start thinking now, so that we are able to plan well. I like the way Mr. Bugingo responded to the issue of was he ready to take over? And he responded, he said, no, he thinks he wasn't ready, but it had to happen. He had to take over and things had to continue moving. I like that. Thank you, Mr. Bugingo. And thank you for being able to push forward that vision. I also note the issue you said that if you could have succession plan and you could be thinking about somebody to take over, but it's important also to have plan B, because could be the person you are thinking about, it may not happen that this is the person who takes over, and then plan B can come on board. I think this is also good advice for us all. We've picked it. You've strategically talked about how should you do it. You said people should strategically do it go with it slowly by absenting yourself. Do it strategically and give people chance and opportunity to try out different roles, and in that process you may be able to identify somebody. So thank you so much. Allow me to appreciate Mr. Don Bugingo for creating time in his business schedule to come and talk to us. We've picked a lot, we've learned a lot. As entrepreneurs, we will start thinking and emphasizing issues that you have talked about. It was very good guidance. We'd like to wish you all the best, Mr. Don Patrick Bugingo, in your leadership, and wish you all the best. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for logging on this morning. I'm sure you've learned a lot, and we'll be able to practice this in our businesses, because what we are looking for is sustainability in our businesses. We want our businesses to continue. We should be able to sustain our businesses so that we achieve why they were put in place. I would like to appreciate you all. Thank you for logging on this morning. On behalf of Makerere University Business School, Entrepreneurship, Innovation, and Incubation Centre, thank you very much for logging on, and we look forward to having you again next Thursday, same time. I don't want to take long because we are already top of the hour. I wish you all the best. Have a blessed Thursday. Bye-bye for now.
Gotta get up and make 'em. 'Cause the world will never see you till you do. No, they don't really care what you're going through. So you gotta show 'em, baby. You gotta show 'em the real you. You gotta give 'em what you got. No, don't let them say what you're not. 'Cause you are strong. You are wise. You are worth beyond 1,000 and words. And you can be perfect, baby. 'Cause nobody's perfect, darling. But no, there's nobody in the world like you. What do you do when you can't let go? What do you say when you just don't know how you feel? And nobody knows how you feel. 'Cause everybody's at their own damn hard time. So everybody's trying to find their way. And day by day, it's a struggle. In this world, you have to go. Just know that you don't always have to be strong all by yourself. I said it's okay to ask for help. People find you, but they don't define you. And you will find people who help redesign you. People will find you, but they don't define you. You will find people Your pretty son, you are a work of art. Bet you didn't think you got this far. Now here you are. Baby, you are strong. You are wise. You are worth beyond 1,000 reasons why. And you can be perfect, baby. 'Cause nobody's perfect, darling. But no, 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 there's nobody in the world like you. You know that you can be perfect, but nobody's perfect, darling. I love you just the way this one. I love you just the way this one. I love all the stars in the sky. Oh, when you look in my eyes. Oh, 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 oh.